fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Yay! Hello! And just in time as Aaron Sparrow arrives. This week we will have a legit Geeks Alive with like a new intro thing and whatever. Coolest Geeks Alive stream. I like how it sounds. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Yeah,
I'm having a problem with my headset. I'm having a problem with my headset tonight. Like, it's not. My mic setup is not. I don't know. Something's wrong. But
well, you sound good on my end.
Oh, that's good.
I was told
I think everything sounds good. I just can't hear. Like, I think this is crap now. Actually.
Oh, I was on I was a little dark last week, so I thought something to help me my mouth stand out this week. I would become Bluebeard. Because I wasn't in the mood to do the mohawk, so I was
going to ask, like, when you're doing like the Hollywood Hogan beard, where it's like, you know, just like shoe polish.
Yeah, right. Blue beards are the future beard, I think. Have you ever seen a man with a blue beard until me?
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then you've really lived.
Well, yeah, because you know, I know this guy Lauren, and his beard has been every color of that, you know, exists within nature. So.
Well, I've never had a blue beard personally. I feel great about it. I'm enjoying it. Although I keep looking at myself going, what's wrong with my face?
I thought maybe Silvani had slipped you some money to promote his pirate book. So you were doing a whole Bluebeard thing.
Yeah, it seems like some sort of weird ailment that someone might pick up in the Caribbean. What happened to you? Oh, I caught the blue fish among us. They bite you and then your beard turns blue for a while. It's no fun. It's really just the beard. None of the rest of the hair. The rest of the hair stays the other color, but your beard miraculously becomes whatever. Quick update for me. How goes Kneel Before Doomface and all that?
It's going really well. I got some more character designs coming in. Renzo's working on pages. We've got some,
move to the right so people can see this awesome Rockeford cover that you've got. Like, look at this piece of work. Yeah, just say, oh, you wish to kneel before that Doomface.
I should just. I'm just going to do the stream from over here so that everybody can see the art.
Yeah, man, I love his artwork, and when you told me that you were getting a cover from, yes,
I got to hang out with him yesterday at Comic-Con Ontario.
Oh, did you? I was going to ask you about the convention. What convention were you at? Terry said
Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario. I saw that. I saw Kenneth say that he was going to be at that show, and I was like, "Cool, that's like not too far from me. Like that's easily within driving distance." But I thought it was a ways off. And then I was on the Thinking Critical stream. We were doing Comics Aficionados on Saturday morning, and I just happened to look down and I saw somebody saying that like I'm on my way to Comic-Con Revolution today, and I was like, "Oh, it's today!" And so then I hit you up and I was like, "Hey, do we still know Mike Sigliano over there?" And
yeah, shout out to Mike Sigliano for getting Aaron into the convention.
Yeah,
how was the show?
Enough to, it was fantastic. I was. It's really. It looks really good. Like it's really slick and professional. The guest list was great. There was a really good crowd there. You know, it seemed like it was a very successful Saturday. I didn't go today, but it looked like it was just jumping, and people seemed to be having a good time. A lot of cosplay. A lot of people like really enjoying themselves. I actually got to spend most of the day with sitting with Kenneth and his assistant, his sister, Jessica, who are just both fantastic. It's the first time I've ever met him face to face and got to spend some time with him. And
I'm assuming they look like Doomface and the chick that he's standing with.
No, although you know Jessica could kind of be a little bit Lexi-ish, but you know, no, Kenneth he'll put on sunglasses when he takes a picture, and he said just because he doesn't want any dark shadows around his eyes because it's like people are like, are you okay? You look tired. He's like, I'm an artist, I'm always tired, but that's
why he wears the Doomface mask.
When he puts the glasses on, he a friend of mine was like, oh, for a second I thought you were like you met Pitbull.
Oh, nice.
But I got to see him. I got to see our friend Greg Weissman, who I didn't know was at the show. I was just walking around and I saw his table and he wasn't there. So I texted him a picture of me standing there going, where is this guy? And he was in a panel, awesome. But then afterwards we got to hang out because we haven't seen each other in a while. So you know, be grabbing lunch or dinner with him soon. And then just got to talk to a lot of other. I met a lot of artists. I got a lot of cards. Like connected with a lot of people. A lot of people that are hungry for for projects and things like that. And people looking to do stuff outside the mainstream. So
People ask me all the time, and I know they ask Aaron too, of like, I want to make comics, blah, 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 blah. The conventions. There are other people who want to make comic books there. Realize that if you're a writer, that what you're asking an artist to do for you is generally much a bigger project. But these days with Kickstarter and so many things, there's a ton of things that you can do to help a project be successful and make something, and can absolutely get something going with somebody else who's like-minded. You go down, you see something in their art that's subtle, that you recognize, you say, I love that too, and they go, oh wow, friends, and that's how it happens. So don't be afraid to go down the con floor and bond with people. That's really, like, I think the biggest trick to making some books is like just the ability to connect with people. So just try to be as outgoing as you can, and wear a shirt of something meaningful that somebody might go, hey, I love that shirt. Like, these are the things that can help. And anything to add to that, Aaron? I've heard you say similar.
I think that's actually great. So I was wearing my my Darkwing Duck inspired CM Punk Best in the World shirt, and I had a velvet purple blazer. And so I got a lot of compliments on the blazer, including from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Actress from the Orville, Adrienne Palicki, who was like, "Oh, I love your blazer. You look very nice." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." I think you look very nice. I enjoy your work. I felt bad because I had spent so much money in Artist Alley. Just kind of like trying, because I like to go and I like to check out people's projects, and I like to just kind of like try to give back if I can. Because I've been the indie guy. I've been the guy sitting at a table just hoping that somebody buys something. So
oh yeah,
so much money there that when
that gives you some empathy.
Yeah, when I was talking to Adrienne, because it just happened to be like a lull in her line where I could just like walk right up, and I just want to tell her how much I liked her in so many roles. Like she was Lady J and G.I. Joe, and it wasn't the best adaptation of G.I. Joe, but she was very good. And got to talk to her for a little bit. But then I felt bad because I was like, I would have spent some money at her table, but I had already dropped so much in Artist Alley that I was like, I can't really afford to spend any more. But she was like,
how was it on that level? Like, I know the Wizard World cons used to gouge people with how much you would pay to get in, and then like how much like prepay for things. Was it like reasonable?
I mean, she was. It was $50 for a signed photo, or $50 for like a photo op, or if you did both, it was $90. Which seems to kind of be the going rate since we came back to cons. Like it's like for the longest time, like 20 was kind of the level.
Yeah, 20 was the level. That's 50. That's crazy. Inflation.
I think 20 is easy. I even think like 40, because 220s is easier than that extra 10, like psychologically, I think, for people. So I do think that, in some ways, I think that people are kind of getting priced out a little bit. But she was very nice and very generous with her time to talk to me, and I appreciated it, and I appreciated the compliment.
Well, cool. We're going to talk today about X-Men 97 and the Ghost Machine comic books, which Aaron hasn't been able to read all these things, but actually what we're going to talk about, really, like, it's kind of better this way, because really with both of them, I think there's sort of main functional things to talk about. In general, I just want to say Ghost Machine, go check out Geoff Johns' attempt at this. But I want to talk about the attempt that is being made by Geoff Johns right now in mainstream comics through Image, through an imprint there, to make his own thing with some other great creatives. I think he's got a lot of great ideas, but there's a lot of things I kind of want to talk to about. I'm going to break down with Aaron some of these things that they're doing, and it's something to learn from for us, in terms of what they've done here. Because it is a little overwhelming, is like sort of my main complaint with it in terms of how they're doing this exactly right now. I'll show you. But first, I want to talk about X-Men 97. And I mean, the first thing about X-Men 97, it was largely great. And it should have been. It's a layup, and it's available for everybody who owns anything now. A layup. Bring back the creative people that everybody loved to make more of the thing that they loved. Aaron, any candidates that you think are right for this?
Well, they didn't bring back the creative team they brought in a new creative team, but the consensus seems to be that the creative team largely did very well with the material.
Well, that's true, and that's a good thing to point out.
The main complaint that, I mean, they brought back some of the voice actors. They moved some around because of the stupid Hollywood
They
rules
did some
now,
very
like,
weird moving things around, which I think was all DI based.
yeah, you
Very,
can't, you
very
can't play a character that
strange.
isn't your exact makeup. And it was like, I don't know if you know this, but none of these people that are playing these characters are mutants. But you know, it's just the stupidity of voice acting in Hollywood right now. I did hear that if you were not a fan of the previous show, if you didn't watch the previous show, there's not a lot to explain to you where you're at, or to give you an idea of how we got here. So I heard that it's a very kind of it's an insular show. It's an insular experience for people.
Well, the ratings of it are terrible. And I would actually say, now that having you pointed that out, that's probably a huge factor. The first few episodes weren't awesome. I would actually say they were kind of bad in a similar way to how the original show was bad. And then all of a sudden, by like episode 3 or 4, you really start getting excited about some of the things that they're throwing on the table. And at the end, and this is a spoiler, but I mean, for you, if you weren't following this or whatever, you obviously weren't too excited about it. So maybe to get you excited about it, the very end frame of the penultimate episode of the show is Magneto ripping the adamantium out of Wolverine's skeleton.
Oh, I'm on
which,
Twitter.
like,
Everything's been spoiled for me. So,
oh, okay, yeah. I mean, but I mean, like, for me, like that, that wasn't leaked. I didn't know that happened, and I watched that, and I literally was like, "Holy shit, they're doing the thing." But of course, they did not stick the landing at all. And I don't know if you got to hear any breakdowns of it, but they do Ex Machina's fucking Jean Grey, the Phoenix, and it was like so friggin' unceremonious and unearned. Everything that was like at stake was immediately put back the way it was, and then they had like a secondary ending that like didn't end. It just ambiguously linked you to the next thing. So I'm like super excited to talk about this thing, to like compliment it last week. And then after the last episode, I was like, fuck this fucking shit. Not that it was that terrible. It still had more positive things than negative things. Now, what you just said there, though, because I wasn't even like thinking that deeply, even though like I didn't go like looking for that or whatever, you know, because I got like focused on they're bringing back cast members, but they're not bringing back these guys. But why didn't they bring back the creative team? Like, they could have,
well, because
easily,
they're old. Because they're old, Jesse, and this is animation, and they don't bring back the people that actually made successful things. They hand it off to other people, you know. And typically that doesn't work. Typically that doesn't please the fans, and you get a product that is, you know, a very Frankenstein, you know, skin of the thing that you love, stuffed with a bunch of bullshit. You know, like fans rejected the He-Man Revelations show largely. You know, a lot of these reboots get rejected. Now, X-Men's gotten some positive buzz, but it doesn't look like the ratings have been as high as they would have liked.
They've been bad. They were lower than one of the lowest rated shows that they had. Andor, it was lower than Andor, and Andor was like the joke bad ratings for them for a while.
Yeah, I think they said it was lower than Echo, which was abysmal ratings. But you know, you're always gonna do a little bit better. You're gonna do a little bit better than with live action, even, you know, something that's as garbage as Echo. Especially when you try to tell people Daredevil's gonna be in this for like 30 seconds. But no, Daredevil, you want Daredevil, don't you? And then they give you a terrible scene with Daredevil, and then they completely cuck the Kingpin as a character. But
oh my God, that Hawkeye series, like I was enjoying it, like it was frivolous fun until that last episode. And they literally, you know, similar to the last episode of this X-Men 97, I was just like, have you destroyed all the goodwill that like you've earned up until this point? Because that's, you know, if you don't stick the landing's the most important freaking part. And I mean, they have a little bit of a thing where like they absconded the ending to next season. And there's like kind of any number of things that they might do. Like, for those of you who haven't seen the original and you know, it's worth checking out, because it's a really great retelling of a lot of the Chris Claremont stories, which a lot of people who were reading the Jim Lee era of X-Men didn't read.
When you leave your mic stationary, you sound better. You don't clip.
Oh, do I? Okay,
yeah,
I will try.
When you move it, you clip constantly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I'm stuttering, but I'll get it. So the X-Men 80 whatever 86 or is it 87 that the series came out? Is that why it's called 87?
No, 97.
97. Sorry.
Mhm.
It basically retells all these Chris Claremont stories with the packaging of the Jim Lee X-Men that were, wildly popular in the in mid 90s or whatever. And it's definitely really there's some great stories that get told in the beginning of the series that are like, these retellings of the Claremont era. And then this series kind of continues it, but it also jumps forward a bunch and it kind of pulls from a whole bunch of different things and left me go, was this ever in the comics? Did Gambit die in the comics? Like, so Gambit's dead now. Like, it's not something that I'm for.
Don't worry. They'll bring him back. They'll bring him back with Apocalypse as one of the Four Horsemen, which did happen in the comics.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're going to do. So, it's definitely this weird thing. And at the end of it, I was kind of like, it's kind of getting a little away from itself. By the time they get into this next season, they're just going to do whatever the hell they want, which is not a place that you want a writing team like this to get to. So I'm kind of actually nervous for the second season, even though I thought the first season was generally good. But in general, though, I want to expound the virtues of what they did here, even though they did it shitty. They only did it like a 90% version. But of going back to the well, bringing back a team together that people like and bringing them in for an encore presentation of the thing. There's a million different things that they do that for right now. Like, let's say Star Trek: The Next Generation. They've blown it with Star Wars as, they killed off Han and Leia's dead. But, there are casts of people and the creative teams. And, oh, my goodness, there's so much money to be made on things that people already definitively like. It's just like a no-brainer investment. And I mean, there's like 1,000 different things I could green light right now as an executive that could make a lot of money if they just use the principles of like, well, let's get the people that did this magic and let's bring them back to do a little more magic. And you can have some oversight, but like to bring in all new teams to try to replicate the thing. And they did a pretty good, decent job on X-Men 97. For a moment, it was really good. There was like 3 episodes in a row where I was like, this show is great. And I was like posting to Twitter and stuff. If you go on my Twitter the past like couple of weeks, like you'll see like a few different like posts from when I was watching the show. And I was like, oh my God, filming that. I sent some pictures to Aaron at a certain point. I was like, look who it is. Look at this costume.
Yeah, it's well, the thing that I saw that I really liked is I liked the way that they came up with new ways for Cyclops to use his power, because you and I have sat around, we've talked about like, this is what I would have the character do with their power, like I don't think they ever lean enough into like what they could really, the damage that they could really do, and and even like double team moves, like everybody always does the fastball special, but this one actually had like Nightcrawler and Wolverine fighting tandem and what that would look like, and it's like, yeah, if you've ever played a video game, team up moves, baby. Why don't you?
There was a lot of team up.
Not
team up. There was a lot of video game references in this one too. Did you notice those?
Yeah.
Or some. I'm sure you're seeing clips and stuff, but like, but yeah, that's it. They almost kind of, to a certain degree, it was almost like fanboy out by the time you got through the series, because like every time there was a fight, it was a little bit like, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. It's going to be a bunch of shitty jokes and and like them being clever with their toys, but as somebody who plays a toy, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I kind of would rather them get through it a little bit faster. But I appreciate your perspective on it, because I'd rather them play with the tropes that are there and fumble the ball a little than make up their own. And they certainly were definitely like trying more things with like their powers and stuff. Sometimes I was going, what? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, morphs powers don't make any sense because they don't understand how shapeshifting works. Like, you don't get the power of the character that you shapeshift into unless you do something where it's like, okay, and I can't remember, maybe they did this in the original show, because I know that at one point Morph was resurrected by Mr. Sinister, so maybe he got a power upgrade, but it's one of those things where it's like, no, that's kind of a cheat. Oh, I transformed into Juggernaut, now I have the power of the Juggernaut.
Yeah, he turned into the Hulk at some point, and I was like, the Hulk's here? That really changes the fucking.
Why would you not just be the Hulk all the time? Yeah, like,
don't be anyone else. This is like helpful. Well, you're the Hulk, but you're still Morph. So you're better than the Hulk because you did.
Yeah, and you can just like mix it up. Like, why don't you just bring Mimic in then, if that's what you want him to do,
See,
and then you
but
have
then
somebody with everybody's powers.
But then if we get really logical there, and he's the Hulk, right, and he's mimicking the Hulk powers, he's Morph. He's not angry. So like I'm the Hulk, but I don't know what's wrong. You're not angry, Morph. And Wolverine has to smack around a little bit. Hey, Wolverine, I'm getting angry. Or in his case now, he'd be like, hey, Wolverine, I'm getting very angry. Because they went out their way to make him a little gay. He says a little bit of gayness in his voice, a little fruitiness in the delivery of his lines, which is it's just so fucking silly to me. All the things that are like weird and wrong about this show are a little silly and a little weird. It's just why. But they did largely get things right. So if you were somebody who's an X-Men fan who dug the show and wanted to see it, was interested in this, the animation is actually it's kind of like an anime. It looks really, really, really solid.
Yeah, the scenes that I've seen, like the action scenes and things like that, I've really liked. So
yeah, no, it's really like a great cartoon. I enjoy cartoons. If you like cartoons, and this is definitely it upgrades itself from its predecessor pretty quickly. Then in the end, it just does not stick the landing and gives me a lot of like, ugh, for the future. But was
Bendis
cool.
A consultant on it since it doesn't stick the landing? Because that's always been my contention with Bendis, is that Bendis never sticks the landing. He'll come up with a concept.
Well, he was always like weaving into other things.
But it's like you still have to, like, you can't make the end game for Secret Invasion. We'll make the Wasp explode. Who cares? The ending of Siege was, you had that great moment where Ares just gets torn apart, and that blew both of our minds, because I remember, like, it was Comic Book Wednesday and I had just read it.
That wasn't even the ending though. That was like the third issue.
Yeah, you called me and you were like, "Oh my god, did you just read this? Did you just read Siege number 3?"
That was so crazy that the fourth issue sucked because that was such like a whoa, and then issue 4 comes along and it was just sort of like. No, like that. See, okay. So if you guys have never read Siege, never read Siege. Siege fucking sucks. Siege was like a 10-year-long promise of like a whole bunch of different heroes and villains meeting up and eventually fighting one another, and a great build-up storyline that really was going on for like 10 years based on like so many of the things that were like seeded from this thing. And Brian Bendis, being a brilliant auteur, comic book writer, saw it in his wisdom that the classic matchups that the audience was waiting for would never arrive. And that this would be a satisfying conclusion to Siege. So where you want to see Spider-Man beat the hell out of Norman Osborn, nah. Where you wanted to see Spider-Man beat the hell out of Venom, nah. Where you wanted to see Wolverine take on his son, nah. Where you wanted to see Captain America.
Hawkeye versus Bullseye?
Nothing.
That sounds pretty good, right?
Nothing. It was worst. It was the least satisfying anything I had ever read. I couldn't believe it, actually. I remember going, no wonder it's 4 issues long. He's not doing anything worth doing.
And then the end is just like, so after Sentry has taken like just so many shots from Mjolnir with Thor's full strength behind it in the face and just shrugged it off. The way that they defeat him is Iron Man drops a helicarrier on him, and then he's all, and I'm like, I don't know that that's worse.
Difference.
Yeah.
Is that worse or better? Is that any? Oh well, we just needed one more. I mean, but that's really the level of writing that he had gotten to. He was really good for a little while, but because there was definitive
before he burned himself out.
There was a whole bunch of places that were kind of definitive endings, like in his Daredevil run. I mean, like there's a whoa, shut the door. Holy shit. Let's think about what this means for a second, and that actually gives me like a great segue to talk about like the Ghost Machine world. Cause like, that's the thing, you want to have a moment, like in that Daredevil run, let's say, when he was outed and like he gets outed by the press that he's Daredevil and he's a secret entity. He's a lawyer. This is a big deal for him. And, there is this moment of like, stop. Wow. I need to imagine this world, what this is like, what things are like now. And as I was reading the Ghost Machine book, because this is the one that like, these are available on bookshops right now. And this is a really cool initiative by Geoff Johns to start something new. He's one of my favorite writers in comics. Pretty much everything he writes is damn good. And these things were great. I'm analyzing them like a crazy person because I am publishing now. But creating a world that like Marvel and DC have, there was a long time, a lot of setup, a lot of things that sort of went into allowing for that feeling, years of DC Comics, sort of doing like the mini crossovers with, here's Flash and the Flash of Earth 2, the JSA meets the Justice League, before Marvel went, okay, it's the world outside your window. And what if they all, it was all taking place in New York largely. And these people are passing each other, in the air and on the street sometimes. How does that work? That whole thing creates this magic of possibility. What might this be? Every time a villain gets introduced into the one hero's book, it's like, wow, what would Wolverine do against this guy? What would Iron Man do up against this guy? There's the promise of so many possibilities, organizations and concepts and things that get introduced into one book. It's possible for them to be used and picked up in other areas. So this Ghost Machine, line is very... they're swinging for the fences in a lot of the stuff that they're going for. I feel like maybe they're biting off a little more than they could chew.
You think so?
Well, there's just a couple things in here that I just immediately went, like they're launching the Ghost Machine Kids line in this book as well, which has a book. Yeah, it just seemed like, see, it says right here, you get, after you get past the 3 books that are Geoff Johns' babies and like his little world, the Geiger book and the Red Coat book, which I'll show you the covers in the other issues. It's Brian Hitch and Gary Frank, amazing artists. And then the other one is by Jason Fabok, who's one of my favorite artists of recent memory. But if you see here, Aaron, it says Family Odyssey, right? And it says, Ghost Machine's family universe is full of heart, heroics, and humor. It's a wonderful, vibrant world, relatable characters, and extraordinary circumstances, all focusing on the importance of family, both born and found. Now, problem for me, one, is like, all right, maybe just establish your main universe before this one. They reach for like another bridge that's, I think, maybe even like a bridge too far, but a better bridge to reach for at the end, which is a horror line, which the first book's not coming out until October. But this secondarily, the short, I would not say it does a great job of really introducing all the characters, keeping you interested in them. It's basically this family, the Rockefellers, which is just kind of a cheesy, lame thing. I think that this cheesy, lame thing worked as like a darling thing at Marvel and DC. I don't think it works as well as indie books. Most indie books are cutesy and silly and stupid. So doing something that's purposefully cutesy and silly and stupid, I don't know if that's the biggest sales pitch to the comic book community. And I don't know if these pages don't exactly do it for me. However, they do introduce like another book that seems to be part of this kids line as well, which ultimately ends up being called, what's it called? It's called Hornsby and Halo. And basically it's a story of nature versus nurture. They've got this demon chick being raised by a really great dad, and they've got this evil family raising this angelic kid. And they wind up on the baseball field together. And you basically see the one kid trying to basically overcome everything, and the other one who's a little bit of a jerk, but she's got it all, kind of. And that's a great premise. That's very interesting. Really, effective in what they laid out here of like, oh, cool, I like this concept. Like, I had to understand the concept of this Rockefellers family from the description of them after the Halo and whatever. There's a whole thing, the Rockefellers, and I didn't read the whole thing because I wasn't that interested. I didn't want to read about these characters in a paragraph, which is what I was about to do. Oh, well, let me tell you about this one and this one and this one. And that's really cool writing, to be perfectly honest. The choice here for the shorts for this guy, I think, was a waste. I don't think it's going to get as many people as they want, even though Francis Manople's artwork's wonderful. And I mean, the story's okay. But it's just in a short, you really got to give people something, or it's hard to get through. What do you think in terms of starting a kids line within their main line now?
I don't think, like, how are you going to get it to kids? Like, how are you going to market it to kids? How are you going to get it out to them? Like, how
Too, right?
exactly
It
is that going to
seems like a
work?
different business model.
Yeah, it's a completely different business model. And it's like, how are you, like, what is, I mean, I guess, like, we could reach out to Geoff Johns and be like, you want to come on and explain this to us? But
Well, I mean, I'm kind of thinking to some degree, it's like, oh, and here are some comics for your kids, which I mean, I guess is a thing. Like maybe we can sell these kids comics to these dads who read comics who have kids. Because I mean, a lot of us do have kids. And theoretically speaking, if I liked it, I might actually turn my kids onto the book in theory. But they're still selling me on the mainline.
mm-hmm.
So then at the end of the book, they've got Hyde Street, and they do this fun thing. I didn't read all of them or whatever, but they do a little classic comic book bit of like, hey, we got all of our old school ads here. And then they do a short, and it's very cool. It's Ivan Rice and Geoff Johns coming this October, Hyde Street. And they say at the beginning, like they talk about this thing. And I mean, there's a couple really cool things that they're doing. Again, a little bit, maybe biting off a little more than they could chew in terms of, what you see in the opening for all the books that they're launching. There's a lot of different characters alluded to here. But they did say that basically their plan is as the universe grows and new creators come in to work on their characters, that they're going to cut these new creators in on ownership of the characters. And that's amazing. That is the business model that we should have going into the future. And I really liked reading that. What say you, Aaron Sparrow?
No, I think it's great. I think that's the. I mean, I really want them to succeed. I did read Redcoat, but I've not caught up with everything else. I was reading Geiger. Geiger kind of lost me. I kind of lost interest in that. But I will definitely revisit it now that it's kind of been relaunched as part of Ghost Machine. I really want them to succeed. I think that they're doing a much smarter version of what Distillery tried to do, which is, Distillery is just, a bunch of tech bros that are dumping money into potential, projects that then they'll sell to Hollywood, the same old kind of like tired thing that we've seen destroying the industry over and over again. Whereas Ghost Machine was like, let's get the top flight creators that are being ignored at DC or that DC doesn't want to pay because they're just too good. And let's bring them over here and let's unleash them on kind of like a loosely shared universe. We'll still see how that all works out, how the shared universe actually plays out. But I think it's really ambitious and I hope it's successful because all of these guys are top flight talent. Your Jason Fabok, your Gary Franks, Geoff Johns, everybody who's involved is top tier talent. And I hope that eventually they lure away Dan Mora from DC. Because as much as I like Dan Mora working on stuff, I would rather see, working on, characters that I recognize, I would rather see him doing something where he's getting a bigger paycheck. He's getting ownership of something that he's doing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for me, Geoff Johns alone has carved out a really nice little area for himself here. I mean, he's got some interesting characters there's a whole timeline for different characters that are part of this kind of weird post-apocalyptic future. And they're, I mean, it's Brian Hitch. Brian Hitch is an incredible artist. Gary Frank's incredible artist. I didn't get to read like the last couple issues of the Geiger book, but I was enjoying Geiger up until a point. And then this Rook Exodus thing, I mean, it looks gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's
I
haven't
read that one yet. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm kind of struggling of like how compelling it's going to be because the power set, the like focal power set is sort of weak. There's all these people, they have these masks that help them control animals. The mayor controls ravens and crows and rooks, and his sidekick controls pigs and boars. And then they're going up against some people who control wolves and walruses, and I'm like, even that, I'm like, okay, it's like kind of small in scale. It is, but it's gorgeous looking. And I only got to read the preview so far. I didn't get to actually read the full first issue, though. Like I said, this book's insane. This guy's artwork is amazing.
Who's the artist on it?
It's Jason Fabok, who did the Batman 3 Jokers. He's so good. I mean, I'll show some of these pages real quick.
I mean, I can't really see it, but
yeah, I'm not sure with my ring light and everything else. If you're gonna, his work.
Yeah, no, it's too glossy.
Yeah, It's gorgeous.
But I mean, anybody who's ever seen anything he's done knows what he's capable of.
Yeah, and it really is amazing. I mean, all of these artists are doing things at a very high level. It's very interesting to me, though, too. I mean, there's like so many things I was thinking as I was reading. Like, I was like, yeah, but it's like the film system of these things. I'm like, they're gonna want to make a movie for this thing in weeks, you know. Like how quickly this get diluted? Will it have time to catch on? You know, will it be something that stands the test of time? How much does Geoff Johns really want to be in the business of making comics? How much would he prefer to be in the business of making films? Considering he's been looking up to Richard Donner and worshiping that his life. So I don't know. But as he said, he's willing to cut people in.
Does he have the option to make films anymore? Because you know, the studio system's collapsing. Obviously, he was ousted from Warner Brothers. You know, I'm just curious, like what the so I think that what he needs to do is he needs to dance with who brought him. He needs to come back to comics, try and make this work, try and make this successful, and then, you know, whatever else happens in the future, you know, all the luck to him. But you know, if I feel like Ghost Machine is in a good position because I feel like they are trying to make good comics first. They're not looking at it as like, this could be a Netflix show or this could be this, you know. They're actually looking at like, all right, let's make a cohesive universe that's cool and that maybe can get people interested, and we'll have the very best artists and the very best people that you know, that worked at DC that were kind of like thrown by the wayside and weren't getting calls back from the powers that be over there, you know, people that Jim Lee was ignoring because he's too busy on the red carpet, you know, hobnobbing with celebrities. You know, it's you know, I love the fact that he's being about the business of comics, and I just hope that that's where his focus stays.
Did we see my awesome shirt today? It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man versus Godzilla. The only problem with this shirt is I realize that it'll last about 3 seconds.
yeah. Stay Puft's not lasting very long. Like as soon as you go to Breath Weapon, it's S'more City.
It was because I brought the shirt and I had the shirt for a while before I actually like played the battle out in my mind. I was just sort of like, yes, I'd love to see that. And then I went, wow, short. No, you know, he cut him in half and then he would turn into a bunch of those little mini annoying Stay Puft Marshmallow Men.
Those are so stupid. Those are so stupid and pointless.
They really are stupid.
It's like, look what a cute little merchandising opportunity.
Yeah, it was stupid. So you know, it does seem like a little bit of a bridge too far, but they've got some amazing extra creators who are involved here, like Brad Meltzer, who's a writer himself, and what was the list at the beginning of the book? Let's see, some of these other people here that are some pretty incredible creators. Well, Ivan Ross, Peter J. Tomasi, who wrote the cutesy thing, but I really didn't like it. Was very good, but Peter's sometimes really great, and I'm sure his mainline story would be great, but not a great choice for the short to hook people in. But they are, I'm just going to read like this intro paragraph because to me this was just like sort of like just to read this intro paragraph I felt was like a little overwhelming. We believe in two vital principles. First, great comics come from great characters, and second, equity comes from true artistic ownership. Committed to these ideals and inspired by so many who came before us, Ghost Machine is introducing new characters from all genres with the unnamed, featuring the action-packed Geiger, Junkyard Joe, and Redcoat, the sprawling sci-fi saga of Rock, the family odysseys of the Rockefellers, their friends, and the horror universe on Hyde Street. Our hero stories are painted across the epic tapestries of American history, the deepest reaches of space, the neighborhood one street over, and the dark secrets that people hide from the rest of the world. I was sort of like, you've lost me.
Yeah, I was kind of like, God, names of characters are so important, and names of books are so important, and that's why like I agonized over you know, remember how many like different variations I went through on Kneel Before Doomface before I settled on that. Because the title of a book is so important, and like I'm just like Junkyard Joe, like
Junkyard Joe. I didn't know that book even came out. It's like 6 issues of that already was released.
Really?
I didn't hear anything about that. Yeah, it's in the back of the book. Collect the trade paperback for Junkyard Joe. 6 issues, or well, it didn't say 6 issues. I assumed, but it was a trade paperback. And I know they did about 6 issues for Geiger already, which I had read like a bunch of those, and they were pretty good. I mean, it's a big thing to build this big of a world, and like, yeah, I mean, without being indelicate, I'd give it a B for Redcoat. I'd give it a B+ for Geiger. I'd give Rook an A-. because it's Rook Exodus, but that one, the premise seems to be suffering. But I'm going to read the first issue and see, because the artwork is beautiful, and I believe in him. But I mean, it's like, it's a lot in the other kids book, and then there's a horror book that comes out in October, and like who cares if they fucking cross over? Like I need to like them first by themselves.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing, like the way that the Ultraverse did it back in the day. When you just talk about like new shared universes that came up before Marvel bought them and shelved them, and it just ruined everything, as they do. They kind of like built slowly. You didn't get crossovers right away. It was like they spent a little bit of time. Like if you bought Prime, you spent time with Prime learning who he was before. I don't think that like they really crossed over until like maybe like the 10th issue when they had like Firearm meet him.
Well, and there's like a simple appropriateness to the way that they like, because the old method was world of superheroes. Go invent a bunch of superheroes. Eventually have crossover with one another. Done. But like this with the creator owned thing, like because I have some plans to try to do something that people might be able to get their heads around like this. And I see that there's kind of like, there needs to be a roadmap for all of it put together from like beyond the individuals coming, like, because like you might have your idea, you might have your idea, you might have like the reason why the Marvel universe is the universe, DC universe, is because there was a central editorial who was running things, not 8 million creative people running the things. There was somebody who understood what needed to be accomplished as a whole. So, I mean, Geoff Johns seems pretty involved in this, and I really wish him the best, and I hope that everything is successful and it does work out. But yeah, that part of like building a universe like that, does it matter? Like, because that was part of the problem with Image, if you remember. And I mean, like, tell me what you thought about the Image shared universe, because very quick with Image was like, it doesn't matter. They don't really like work against each other in any way that matters. Mm-hmm. So it didn't matter when they would cross over, really, except occasionally, like some
like
individual.
The best one was maybe like Savage Dragon and Bedrock was probably the best crossover.
Oh, an early one, it was fun when the Max showed up in the Savage Dragon later on as well. But again, it was a singular character showing up in the book in like right place that made sense for them. But I mean, like the Image United books and stuff, like they never like did they excite you?
No. Because the bloom was so far off the rose at that point. It's like there's no Wildstorm anymore because it got sold to DC, and where it's just languished in obscurity and mediocrity. But at least Jim Lee got that golden parachute. Mark Silvestri just kind of like lost interest in Cyberforce and all his creations. Except for like, Witchblade's back, but that's gonna be awful. It was like Top Cow moved away from Cyberforce and those characters that he kind of introduced, and all of a sudden it was just all about Witchblade and the darkness, which was fine. But it's like I still want to read the other characters. It was always interesting too. You had too many teams. You had Youngblood.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You had Youngblood, which was like the government team, but then you had Stormwatch, which was the UN team. And then you had Cyberforce, which was like being hunted for being mutants because Silvestri worked on X-Men or something. But you were but they never really fleshed out what that meant, in this universe, and it never crossed over with anything else. There was never any like, anti-mutant sentiment in Wildstorms, or in Wildcats. Like that didn't happen. Spawn was like kind of his own thing. Like I know he fought. Who did Spawn?
Well, he was in hell. I mean, Chaplin went to like, see, that was like an early, I mean, but that was some of the early stuff. And what is that? Some pre-planning on the part. Oh, well, let's make them connected in this way. And then they later went back on that in various ways because they wanted to make it different for the movie or whatever. The same.
Well, and they kicked Rob out of Image, and there was all that drama, and it was like, how did you guys not see this coming? So yeah, it just never really came together in a good way. And when you did have something that was coming together in a great way, like the Ultraverse, it just got gobbled up because Marvel wanted their digital coloring techniques. And
I can't believe that they've never tried to bring those characters back. They own them.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason.
Because is there a reason?
Creator deals. Yeah, the creator deals. The owners have a certain amount of ownership over those characters. So if you use those characters in anything, they get money. And Disney is not about giving people money. Disney is about keeping everything for themselves.
Oh, well, that explains it.
So that's why you don't see like, Sludge showing up in the Marvel universe or Lord Pumpkin, showing up. And it would be great. I mean, not in the modern Marvel universe because nothing they're doing.
They had a couple characters that were totally evocative and fun. I mean, Prime was super fun. He was just a play on the Shazam thing. But Shazam's a DC. That's a great character for Marvel to have. Like, I was waiting for them to bring back Prime. It seemed like a really good, useful thing for them. But not so much.
No, you can't do that. Like you could have done Sludge. You even could have done Hard Case. Firearm would have worked. All of these characters would have fit in. Nightman would have fit in. There was just a lot of
Nightman, fighter of the day, man.
Yeah, now of course it's you do it and everybody goes, oh, Always Sunny. Yeah, he's got to fight Dayman, who's a master of karate and friendship for everyone.
He will fight the Nightman. The master of the day, man.
Well, the Nightman, he comes in your window at night and he holds you down with his.
Sorry, Aaron. We now come to my favorite segment of the show. Toys. Where Aaron Sparrow breaks out one of his latest toys because Jesse hasn't bought one in a while. And I want to live vicariously through my friend. What do you got there, Aaron?
What have I bought? I mean, nothing that's here at the desk. I would have to get up and
nothing good at the desk. There's always something.
No, I bought some wrestlers. I mean, I've got. It's hard because of the way that the camera clips when I do anything. But I bought the Faker Slash crossover from Target. It's a Target exclusive, and I immediately looked at it when I took it out of the package and was like, "Well, this needs paint." And so I started painting on it and giving him a more metallic shell here. I know it's hard to see with the lighting.
He looks much better than he did.
Yeah, I've painted the cyborg eye. I've gone back and I've done like detailing on his shell, painted his toenails and his fingernails, giving him some dry brushing. Just working on making him look much cooler.
Give him a blue beard.
I
think
he's
that
already
would be
quite
the best.
blue.
He is well. I think the blue beard would be the extra thing. So that's it. That's all you got for me.
I was down on these. I was down.
You were down on them, and you bought them anyway. You like them?
Because I decided that. So this one works just on his own because he's big enough. But most of the other characters, I don't know. Did I show this last week? I've been buying Masterverse characters and then taking the turtle pieces and putting them on the Masterverse figures so that I have like actually impressive. Because I hate the little squatty Origins figures. You and I talked about that.
He's really nice looking.
Yeah, when Mattel was trying to impress us and they were like, look, we're bringing back the Origins figures. And Beastman, I remember you said to the guy, because he's like, Beastman has his original, like, he doesn't have toes, just like in the original figure. And you're like, yeah, why would you bring back the features that sucked?
I'm blunt sometimes.
Yeah, and what's funny is so Ted Biaselli, who was the showrunner or the producer on, he works at Netflix. I've met him several times. He shops. He comes in and shops because he's a big toy nerd. He was saying like about the Origins figures. He goes, "Oh, good, they brought back toys nobody wants." Now, granted, people have been buying them, but I haven't been buying them because I don't like the Origins figures. They're squatty like the original toys, and I have better versions now. I don't want to go back to the crappy toys that were the best at the time, but the crappy toys that I had as a kid, I want the better versions of those characters that they make now.
Well, it's funny. What I think they connected to with that Origins thing was that there was a huge collector's market who had all of the Origins. Mm-hmm. They grew up those, and they eventually went out and they had a collection, and they were just sitting on them. They were somewhere in their home or whatever it was. And when something new like that came out, they would grab it. And I think that like base of people who were legit like sitting on the old school stuff was pretty big. And then you had other people like you and I who started sitting there going, well, wait a second. They're starting to have fun with this. There's some things maybe I would like, which really like, I mean, the past like year or two with this line, I've been like going like, oh man, really? They finally made that? But as this stupid toy, am I going to get all these toys to have that? Like, oh.
No, you hope that they make it in the Masterverse because the Masterverse pair well with the classics because I still have all my classics. But the Masterverse have double jointed elbows and knees, and there's some impressive versions there. I still very much love the aesthetics of the classics because they are the perfect blending of modern posability and modern sculpting, but based on the look of the original toys.
But they keep ruining it with all the heads for the Masterverse for me.
Yeah, there's some really bad heads, especially He-Man. They cannot get He-Man right.
Bad heads. But I mean, I guess that's the fixable part. But when I see him on the shelf, I'm like, fuck you, toy. But you know what? I keep thinking that it's going to be sort of disposable, and that this Masterverse, even though they've chosen a name that, you know, is its own thing, I'm feeling like as soon as once they decide the show with Netflix ain't working, they're gonna retool the line again, like, and then just freaking relaunch the same. I'm getting, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna buy another 15 Skeletors in your lifetime. It's gonna happen.
You know what the thing is? Like, I just don't see them setting themselves up to succeed creatively with line. Like, it was very interesting. There was 2 amazing designs that I saw from Axel Jimenez on Instagram the other day. And it was like this Spider Woman, kind of similar to Web Store, and then this really overweight looking goblin chick who kind of looked like a leech type character. They were great looking. And then
that one I hated. I hated the fat one, but I liked the spider, like the Web
Oh,
Store
really? I loved her
lady.
face and stuff. I like both of them. But when you saw them in the actual book that they put out, they weren't as cool, for one. And you know, that sort of thing of like having art contests and design contests and things like the world of He-Man that people love and have come to worship, you know, comes from this world of amazing old school Frazetta inspired fucking swords and sorcery and sci-fi, you know, action artists that were doing all these really cool creative things. And I feel like there's just so many brilliant creative people. It's like, you know, if they would apply a similar sort of thing of like, let's get some really great creative people to work on these things, you know, with a similar sort of idea of like, you know, everybody action oriented, which is a nice simple way to not just convey the ideas to children, but to convey the ideas to anybody of who these characters might be, you know, on whatever level, which I really think is very effective as like a storytelling tool, and also, you know, as an empathy thing. Like, you know, it's like when you have the token black guy, it only goes so far of like what that black person is going to be about if you actually have met any black people, because like, you know, what your token black person is, and other people, it's like, but when you have somebody named Clawful, you know, like it's much more effective, like sort of like I put them into a little itty bitty box and this is what they do and this is what they're about and we're going to come at it from this. You know, his name is Fisto. He likes to punch things. You know, like that is sort of the way you can get away with sort of writing racist tropes, is by making people sort of like an action or a trait. And it is actually a really useful way to explore them story-wise and character-wise. You can write the fucking 7 dwarves for days and days and days and days. You know, just knowing, oh, that guy's the sleepy one, and that guy's the smart one, and that guy's the dopey one, and that, you know, like that's it. That's all you need.
So, are you saying that's why you think everything needs to be the Smurfs? Like, yeah, everybody says one trait. Yeah, this is jokey. This is hefty.
My kids are loving the Smurfs. There's like a revive of the Smurfs, and they love it. I mean, I do think that's so much of that is what's going on in comics all the time and going on in the Lord of the Rings, and, you know, just archetypes and, you know, silhouettes and shapes, and this is the sword guy and this is the sorcerer guy, and like, you know, these are the dwarf people with the axes and these are the ones with the bows. You know, there's a reason why the elves have bows and the other guys have swords and the other guy has axes, because they're different. They're different. This is how they're different, you know. So we are going to wrap up tonight's show in just a second, but I've got this great commercial that we made for the book that we just started promoting. We got awesome like money going into ads this to everybody. The book is going to be launching in about 30 days. It's my repudiation of the nudie book going on. Actually, there's no actual nudity of females in my book, only of these monstrous aliens from Glon who have large penises. But other than that,
it's basically just like a third leg.
Yeah, it's a third leg. It's not even a penis at this point. It's grown too large to be considered. So anyway, we've got this video that's going to be going around this weekend, like advertised to people, but I thought it came up pretty good. Shout out to Andre Padre Holmes, Robbie Lochner, both. You get a little jingle together, and then Michael Zinn helped me do the commercial. And also my microphone is better and my video is better this time around. Mike Zinn helped me before the show. Come on, and go in the back end. I didn't know that you needed to request a better picture. They didn't automatically give you the best picture you could have. You had to go in the back and go, please, can I have a better picture? So Michael showed me how to do that. Anyway, check out the video. I think it's pretty funny. I have to start it again.
want you. F***ing for our future. Sign up for notifications now on Kickstarter. You love their taste, love. Only from Blacklight District Studios.
How'd I do?
The fact that the fact that this is on Kickstarter is blows my mind. The fact that they're not losing their mind. Aren't you afraid they're going to shadow ban you?
I got censored on Fund My Comics worse than I got censored on Kickstarter. They're not even making. I don't even have to fund the title.
Oh,
fuck is an okay word for Kickstarter. It is crazy to me, but I mean, it's very funny. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this book is a science fiction story. You know, I was looking to tell a story where nudity was a part of the story, so that it made sense to have nude covers, but was actually about something interesting. So the basic story that we came up with was on planet Glon, the men and women separated 1,000 years ago, and now 1,000 years later, the women, their cloning technology is not working anymore. So they make these power armors to send them into the wilderness to go claim some sperm samples. But for the women, like, you know, it's not romantic. They're not trying to like get a date with these men. They just very practical reason. And then the men, they haven't seen a woman in 1,000 years. They don't need women anymore. They're done with women. They don't know what a woman is. They don't know what a boob is. They don't know anything. So the women are applying these 1,000-year-old like Glon pickup techniques and to a Bigfoot that lives in the wilderness. And he's like, I don't even know what you're saying to me right now. So it's just like it never ends well for the Bossy 1 and the Bossy 2 and the many Bossy armors that Bossy Princess Bossy. Princess Dickhouse is our princess. She volunteered for the program because nobody else would. And there's this scene in the second issue where we show them playing the scene, and at the end it says, like they're demonstrating some of the functions of their. Now you can see our power armor can do this and it can do this, and it says, "We want you fucking for our future." And the person says, "We haven't had anybody volunteer yet. Maybe the slogan." And that's when the princess comes in and says, "I'll do it." Well, I have to do something for my around here.
Do something for my people.
I will take one for the team.
Literally.
That's literally. All right. Thank you so much for joining me and Aaron tonight for another episode of Coolest Geek Alive. We will be back again next Sunday. We might be talking about the DC and Batman and DC Ultimate Universe, the Bruce Timm and Paul Dini animated universe, like all the stuff they made, Justice League Unlimited and Batman Beyond and all that stuff. We're keeping that in our back pocket, but if something interesting and spicy comes along that we decide we want to talk about, we may push that to a further episode. But I hope you'll come join us for that. I hope you'll come join me on Wednesday for the usual Coolest Geek Alive. I'm doing it live streamed on YouTube every Wednesday at 12:03, I think, Pacific and Eastern time. And I'm doing the same thing on Fridays for this Everything They Don't Want You to Know show, which I just started on Friday, which was really fun. I just did an introduction. You can watch that. And then every Monday night, the same time as tonight, I'm doing this music show. All Your Favorite Bands Suck, just like this, but tomorrow night. So come join me. Tomorrow night, I'm doing Akon. I like Akon. Akon's like a hip-hop artist. I don't really love a lot of hip-hop artists, but I love him. Anyway, Aaron, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you'll do it again next week when hopefully we will have a Jesse and Aaron introduction. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe it won't be next weekend, but hopefully it'll be by next weekend. But if not, it'll be the weekend after that, I'm sure. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us again for another awesome episode of the Coolest Geeks Alive!
Let's sing it! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Come on! It's gonna be fucking awesome! You know the words! It's gonna be fucking awesome! That's it! Say! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Yeah! It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? I'll play that! Coolest alive.